Hello and welcome to David Galata Book Dreamer. I'm David Galata, author of Clockmaker and Crew of Ganges. So, this week I'm talking about the occult and science fiction. There we go. That's a topic, isn't it? There isn't really a lot in there, except I think there should be more. You can, of course, always include the works of H.P. Lovecraft. Love him or hate him, he certainly did combine the occult with science fiction to create almost a new genre of book of paranoid visions. Uh, Very interesting stuff. His work is very, very interesting. And I do tend to I detach myself from the author or artist in favor of the work. Often the work itself is a different creature to the creator. So that is certainly something that we'll talk about later on. But when it comes to the occult and science fiction, there doesn't seem to be a lot of material that's around that subject. Gene Wolfe kind of hints at it in Litany of the Long Sun. He has some stuff to say about it. There are some science fictions that do indeed include occult-like elements to it. If any of you have read any of the books that have to do with Warhammer 40K, uh, there are, cults in that. There's occultic work in there on all sides, apparently. Akashic technology, for example. And in some respects, a lot of the things that have to do with psychic abilities could be seen as occult in science fiction. But I often find those a little watered down. Uh, when we're really talking about the occult and we're talking about ritual, you don't really think science very often, and so you don't really consider it in science fiction. You think of secret societies, you think of, mysticism, you think of magic, you think of witchcraft, you think of, cults and sacrifices and altars and all this stuff and dark candles burning and spirits, things like that. You think of angels and demons. You begin to get very more toward the fantasy side of things when you're looking at the occult. And I find that very interesting. And why do I find that interesting? Because the science of chemistry is actually the child of alchemy, which was an occult practice. Yeah, it was. It was a child of an occult practice that had to do with the preservation and the enlightenment and spiritual raising of the self. It had to do with magical properties and transmutations. It involved a lot of symbols and rituals, and yet it led to an empirical science. So is it that science doesn't really like its grandparents, or is trying to distance itself still, even up to today, with magical thinking? I don't know. I mean, if you want to talk about science fiction writers, I mean, Arthur Clarke once said that any sufficiently advanced level of technology would appear to be magic. Yes, magic can be basically just a term for the things we still don't understand about physics, which is a lot. Uh, Most of physics is theory and hypothesis and, some kind of logical reasoning every now and then. But there is so much we don't know. There is more we do not know about physics than we do know. There are a few facts. So the occult could be seen as the human way of trying to deal with the things that we do not understand, but we know something's there. In many ways, I'm kind of surprised there aren't a lot of cults that are surrounded around quantum mechanics. Seems to be rich ground for that to me. I could certainly see how such a cult could develop using the equations of quantum mechanics as, part of their rituals and, making circles of equations and certain numerologically charged shapes and things like that. Uh, yeah, why not? It's the way the human brain works. We work with patterns. Human beings are very much geared for being pattern finders, and ritual is a part of that. So why isn't it used in science fiction so much? What is the divide? Unfortunately, I really don't know why that is the way it is, but it does seem that science does not want to be part of human occult thinking, even though I hate to tell it to them, they are. Um, there are people who do indeed, look at astrology and astronomy at the same time. Maybe an astronomer doesn't do that, or an astrophysicist doesn't do that, but there are people who do look at both, who check out their horoscope because they're a Taurus or a Pisces, and then, they read, you know, books from Stephen Hawking. Why not? You know, Science fiction could be very much enriched by being a little more exploratory, which is an interesting thing to have to say to science fiction, but it's very, very true. Uh, Being able to mix and match from different, very human metaphors for that which is or even that which isn't, and combining that in a science fiction setting could be very interesting, could have some really, really twisty and unusual ways of looking at things and questioning things and creating plot lines that are unique. Why aren't we doing this? It's a good question. It's a really good question, and I really do encourage people to explore. I know I'm exploring science fiction. I'm also exploring fantasy and it's a little bit of a fuzzy line between them. I like doing that. Uh, Sometimes my books don't fit either genre. They're kind of both and neither at the same time. This is good. We need more exploration. We've kind of gotten stuck in a rut. I see it every day. Every time I'm looking at books and current books, I'm like, oh, here we go again. Here we go again. Here we go again. Starfleet this and a Starfleet that and a Star Navy this and a Star Admiral that and a Star. Wow, guys, come on. Is it always, warring factions? Is it always a matter of, well, here's the grand fleet of whatever civilization, come on, you know, can we get beyond that? Can we look beyond that? And that in of itself is fine, but when it comes to the occult, it really does throw people. And yet, I think no matter where humans go, I mean, if we end up in space, if we end up, having colonies around other planets and around on other planets or around other star systems and, light years, hundreds of light years from Earth, I think we'll still have occult thinking, if nothing else. And so being able to combine occult with science fiction might be a real nifty tool to have in your toolbox as an author. You don't even have to claim that the occultists are right, but understanding occult rituals, which basically, that's what a cult is understanding the rituals of humanity can really bring a lot of depth to your characters or to a situation. You don't really want your, if you want to bring in, ooh, we have this big cult and all that, you don't want it too cartoonish. You don't want it, you know, too two-dimensional. You want to bring depth into it because if it doesn't have that, it's not going to seem threatening, it's not going to seem frightening, or it's not going to win the day and it's not going to overcome the enemy. Whatever it is you want to do, it's going to seem unreasonable unless there's some depth in there. And with that, that means you're going to have to do some research. Research into the occult. Um, I would say Thelema is a great way to start with the Kabbalion. Um, you can look at alchemy, alchemical texts, and the works of Aleister Crowley. And I know these things are all very controversial. Doesn't mean you have to believe in them. Just take a look at them and understand. You can look at occult practices from various other cultures as well. And, maybe bring in a few elements here and there that might enliven a story or might bring more depth or might bring this is why the main character is so concerned about this. You can really have a lot of fun with this as long as you're willing to be brave and you're willing to do the research involved. Um, I will confess right now that I do have a book in mind that, hopefully in the next few years I'll be able to write up and finish that does indeed combine the occult and science fiction extremely directly. And yeah, we'll see. We'll see how that turns out. We'll see what my readers think of that. Uh, it will be interesting. I do guarantee you that. It will be very interesting stuff. I like creating things that are on the fringe because that's where the exploration is. That's where our discoveries are made. I like doing things that haven't been done before or have been done rarely, like the generation ship. It's rarely talked about, even though it's probably one of the more reasonable ways of getting from one star to another. We shove that under the carpet. Uh, I don't know why either. No, but that does seem to be the case. So adding some fantasy elements or occult elements, and I don't really consider occult to be fantasy because human beings throughout human history have believed in the occult, whether it's the Kabbalion and the Tree of Life, and you know, it, it's there. It's part of human thinking. We are pattern finders. And when a pattern doesn't make sense, we create something so it helps us to make sense out of it. And that is part of the occult. When it comes to rituals and trying to find things like enlightenment through rituals, these are ways of trying to steady oneself against the trammels of life. That's also part of the occult. Uh, we're talking about transcendence, and transcendence is its own topic above and beyond occult and science, though either one of them can lead there, along with other ways like spirituality, but I covered that last week. So this one is about the occult specifically. There are Poul Anderson did, I think. Yes, Poul Anderson, as an author, took that on, and he had fleets of ships based on tarot cards, and the aliens that used them. And it was very, very fascinating how he did that. Uh, Really, really interesting. And the human race were swords. We were all the suit of swords in tarot. Fascinating stuff, really odd stuff, but it was very much science. It was a science fiction thing, but the whole culture was about the occult. So yeah, there we go. So you gotta think about it, because it's a rarity. Yeah. Let's bring out some more. Let's bring out some more. Let's explore a little bit more. Let's dig a little deeper. See where it goes. See what we can resolve. See what we can look at and bring out to ask questions about ourselves. So all right, I hope you have enjoyed this week's installment of David Galata Book Dreamer. Please, please do subscribe. Little button down below. And please put in comments. I would love to hear from people. So until the next time, happy reading, everyone. Thank you so much for watching.